So if you love large tax bills and paying the government more than is necessary, then this video is not for you. For everyone else, if you're always on the lookout for strategies and ideas that you can use to minimize your taxes in retirement, follow me into this quick video and I'll give you some things to think about. Let's go. Number one, delay taking Social Security benefits. Just because you become eligible to start your Social Security benefits does not mean that you need to start right away. You might ask yourself, why on earth would I not take this money right away? After all, it's my money. I put into the system for all these decades. Now it's my turn. You're not wrong, but there are some other factors at work here. You probably already know that one feature of Social Security is that the longer you delay taking payments, the more that monthly amount or payment will increase for you. But that's not the only reason you might consider delaying payments. Another factor could be your genes, right? Not your Levi genes, but I mean your genetics. If your family's health history points to longevity, the delaying of this could equate to much more money in your pocket over a longer than average lifetime. But there's one more factor that has to do with taxes, which is why we're here. It's the taxation of those benefits relative to your other income sources. So let me be more specific. First, look at your combined income. Combined income includes your adjusted gross income plus any non-taxable interest plus half of your Social Security benefits. If you and your spouse filed jointly and that combined income is more than $44,000, then up to 85% of your Social Security benefits will be taxable. You'll always hear me say that flexibility is king, and here is a great case for that. Coordinating multiple buckets that you've saved into in order to control or at least cap your income in any given year will help you to stay within certain tax brackets and potentially pay far, far less to Uncle Sam over a long period of time. Number two, master your RMDs. So speaking of paying less in taxes, many of you have built up an exciting amount of value within your retirement plans. This is the moment in time for you to realize, as much as these plans are amazing ways to accumulate wealth, they can eventually turn into ticking tax bombs when they pass on to your heirs. Why? It's because none of that money has ever been taxed, right, in those retirement accounts. So the government wants its money too. So as that money flows out each year to you, they're able to assess a tax that amounts on that amount that you take out, I should say. So eventually, if you pass away with a good sum of money left in there, your kids will inherit not only your account value, but also the tax as well. But more on that in later tip that I have at the end of this video. But in short, RMDs stand for Required Minimum Distributions, which is a formal way of Uncle Sam saying, hey, you got to start taking some money out of here. The age of when this starts to happen has kind of bounced around since COVID crept into our lives. It currently sits in 2024 at the age of 73, which means from that point on, you'll need to take at least a specific amount from these retirement accounts each year. And that amount is based on two things: the total value of those accounts on December 31st each year, and the life expectancy tables used by the IRS. What that amounts to, very roughly speaking, is when you start taking out these distributions at 73, you'll be expected to withdraw close to around 4% of your account. So if you have $1 million in your retirement accounts, you'll need to take a minimum of about $40,000 each year. Now that percentage will slowly creep up through the years, and in your late 80s will likely be closer to well over 6 or 7%. However, what I mean by master your RMDs is coordinating all your income sources together so that you're spreading the ones with tax implications in and among other sources you might have with no tax implications, especially from Roth accounts or non-taxable investments such as municipal bonds. Taking out just enough to meet your income goals and keep your tax bracket within reasonable ranges allows you to squeeze more juice out of this thing than you can ever imagine. Now, a quick note here. What I just described is exactly why I believe that having a strong financial advisor combined with excellent tax advice is a 1-2 punch that you're going to want to have in your corner. Number 3, location, 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 right? We know what that means, real estate, right? An often overlooked piece of your retirement is where you live in those retirement years. I'm not suggesting that you uproot your life and move to another state based solely on its taxation of retirees. But if you're already planning on relocating, and if you're already spending much of your months and years in another state anyway, then give some serious thought to doing a comparison. I'll give a shout out here to kiplinger.com, and we'll provide a link in the video description too. They've done an excellent job doing a deep dive into each of the 50 states, and you should be able to easily look up your home state and any others that you're considering and easily be able to determine major benefits to moving if they exist. Maybe you're good where you are. But remember, there are far more taxes in life than just income tax. Remember things like sales tax, local tax, property tax, estate and inheritance tax, just to name a few. It all comes into play. Okay, and I did promise you 2 bonus tips. The only reason I didn't include these as part of the main list is that my list today is really centered on those of you just heading into retirement or right in the middle of it already. But I'll quickly add these 2 tips for you. One is for those of you who still have some time to go before you hang up your hat on your career. The other is for retirees who are, let's say, in the later innings of their own retirement. So bonus tip number 1, Roth IRA conversions. Roth conversions in general. The reason I suggest these are perhaps better suited for someone still some distance from retirement is that the process of converting to a Roth involves taking money out of your deferred account, tax deferred account, paying the taxes owed on it, and then converting it over into a Roth where it has the potential to grow tax-free. That's a super simplistic summary, but hopefully you get the intent there. So time is a reasonably important factor here. If you do all the conversion and give it a good amount of time to grow, then it can be a worthwhile maneuver. But if you're planning on drawing that Roth account down relatively quickly, it may not be a wise choice for you. There's lots to consider before doing. Again, great reason to chat with an advisor. And bonus tip number 2, hold them or fold them. It's my silly way of just saying, think about what you own. So remember when I talked about RMDs earlier, I was talking about sometimes allowing yourself to draw on different assets in order to keep control over your tax bracket and attempt to minimize those taxes. But I also just mentioned that depending on the state you live in, you might not have any inheritance or estate tax. Now, all of this noise and different things means one thing. It's super important to pay attention here. While I mentioned retirement plans can grow into tax bombs for your heirs, some of your other assets can actually grow into wonderful opportunities. Take, for example, you own shares of a company, have no intent to sell it today. If your intent is to let it grow and someday have it transferred to your kids, that's important to know. While income tax does not really come into play here, capital gains tax could possibly gobble up as much as 20% of that money. Say you invested $20,000 into Apple a long time ago. Now it's worth $200,000. That $180,000 of unrealized gain, it never gets taxed until you sell it. If you sell it, that $180,000 will be taxed at capital gains. And if your income is high enough, you may owe 20% or $36,000. On the other hand, stock is given what's called a stepped up cost basis upon your death. And while none of us ever want to talk about that dark topic, the reality is that if you never sold it and just let it pass to your heirs, if it was worth $200,000 on the day you die, and then your heirs would be allowed to use that amount as their new stepped up cost basis. If they went and sold it the very next day and at that same value, they would owe no capital gains tax at all. Now that's a gift on top of a gift. In summary, be aware of your surroundings. What do you own? How do you own it? What is its purpose? What is its purpose to you? And if coordinating all those details feels more like noise than anything else, then like I said, don't hesitate to reach out to one of our excellent Stonehouse advisors. We work with people across the country, and sorting through details is what we love to do. Remember, These are general guidelines I'm talking about here, so keep that in mind. And if you'd like a personalized and fun way to approach this planning without the intimidation factor, our Stonehouse team is only a click or a phone call away. So I hope this was helpful.